State taking on Kansas State in the Cactus Bowl. We got Tony Siracusa on the line from Last Word on College Football to talk Bruins football at 6-6. They reach postseason play eligibility with a win over Cal to close out the regular season. It's funny, Tony, that only 3 years ago these two teams met in, it's the Cactus Bowl. It was the Alamo Bowl at the time. Not the same bowl game, but they met at the Alamo Bowl in the previous time. And that might have been the crescendo, the peak of the Jim Mora era at UCLA. They finished up a 10-3 season after they beat a good Kansas State team. They finished in the top 10 in the country. And then Josh Rosen comes in, and no fault of his, they never reached that status again. So much has changed in 3 years.
Yeah, that was the peak of the Mora era. It's interesting that you bring that full circle. He had Brett Hundley at quarterback. Hundley had a terrific game in the Alamo Bowl against Kansas State. There was a well-noted, well-documented moment at the end of the game between Jim Mora and the venerable Bill Snyder, where there was a great deal of chippiness because Mora accused Snyder's defense of taking a cheap shot at Hundley when Hundley went into the victory formation at the end of the game, and a couple of the linebackers blitzed at him, and so there was some chippiness at the end of the game. But that season was the pinnacle for Mora and never got close to those levels ever again, either in terms of wins, either in terms of on-field performance for the team, and certainly nothing close in terms of bowl games.
Kansas State was a top 25 club preseason. They did not live up to those expectations, lost a lot of our early games, lost to all the upper echelon teams in the Big 12, finished at 7-5, had a light schedule down the stretch that helped them gain bowl eligibility. Your thoughts about, I think the first thing that comes to mind strategically in regards to matchups is we're looking at a run, heavy run offense for Kansas State, and we're looking at statistically one of the worst rushing defense. I don't think if you can't group the group of fives and the power fives together statistically and compare those stats, but statistically taking all of FBS into consideration, UCLA's at the bottom of the barrel. So the Kansas State game plan has to be rather simplistic, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, look, they lost their starting quarterback, Jesse Ertz, about halfway through the season, and that obviously made things very tough for them. But they did come back, win 4 out of the last 5, relying heavily on their ground game, as you say. They're averaging about 187 yards a game on the ground with Alex Barnes and Delvin Warmack. So they have a really strong ground game, 187 yards per game on the ground, compared to, as you just pointed out, UCLA's run defense, which is giving up 283 yards per game, hasn't been able to stop much of anybody on the ground. So where you are Kansas State, there is no need to get fancy. There is no need to, not that Bill Snyder's ever going to get fancy with much of anything because he's Bill Snyder, but you are going to have a run-first offense. You're going to run first, second, and third. You're going to run as much as possible until UCLA proves that they can stop you. The other part of this, too, is that Kansas State, historically, by reputation, plays smart football. They don't kill themselves with mistakes under Bill Snyder, and UCLA is -9 on turnover margin over the year. So UCLA has got to do a good job of protecting the ball when they have it, because Kansas State is not going to make a lot of mistakes and give UCLA the ball on turnovers. For UCLA, there's one question and one question only right now, and that's whether Josh Rosen is going to play. This isn't one of the situations where I'm sitting it out to save myself for the NFL. Rosen wants to play, but he is still undergoing concussion protocol from the Cal game back in that first weekend of December, the season finale. He took a hit, slammed his head on the ground. At the time, after the game, he didn't come back to play. He took one more snap, didn't come back to play the second half, was replaced by Devon Modster. And at the time, after the game, Morris said, "It's not a concussion, but we were just being safe." Well, it was a concussion. And he's been undergoing the concussion protocol for 2 weeks now, and he has not taken live snaps in contact drills in any capacity. Rosen has made it very clear. He doesn't want to sit out. This is not a Christian McCaffrey type of situation. Not a knock on McCaffrey. It's just not similar to what those players did last year. He wants to play. The doctors have not cleared him to play. And so it's an interesting situation because obviously the UCLA offense is dramatically different if Rosen is in there versus if he isn't. I mean, Rosen's thrown for nearly 3,800 yards this season in 10 games. Because this is also his second concussion this season. So I think that plays into it. As a college football fan, just pure college football fan, I'd love to see Rosen play because it would be Josh Rosen unencumbered. There's no reason to hold anything back. He's not coming back next season, even though he's saying all the right things about, oh, I'll think about it. I haven't made a decision. I'm going to meet with Chip Kelly. Please, he's not coming back. He's had 2 concussions this year. Go get paid. Really, seriously. We appreciate, your UCLA work and everything you did. Go get paid. He's not playing for a coach's job. He's not, Jed Fish, who is the interim coach for the game, is not going to be kept on as offensive coordinator under Chip Kelly. And so he's not playing to save a coach's job. He wouldn't be playing for anything other than just go play one last time. And man, it would probably be a lot of fun to just see a Josh Rosen free to just let it rip, let it go, run a crazy wild offense. There's no telling what he could do. But from a medical standpoint, obviously, you got to do what's best for yourself.
You stated it well. Let's make sure that Josh Rosen's in good shape before he's placed on the field, and I'm sure all the medical personnel in place will do just that. But I couldn't have said it better. I was thinking the same thing. As a college football fan that's going to watch the Cactus Bowl, I want to see Josh Rosen out there throwing 55, 60 passes. Right. Kobe Bryant, I have no great affinity for Kobe Bryant, but I loved him tossing up 50 shots in his last game. Go out with a flurry. Love to see that. But the other caveat in all of that, Tony, as a guy who prognosticates the games, I want to know if he is playing before I make a prediction on the game, because you talk about a swing and a point spread.
Oh, sure.
That's going to do it big time.
Yeah, look, we're sitting here, 5 days before the game, and he's not been cleared yet. Now, UCLA will carry this through until the very last day if they have to. Rosen isn't someone who needs to go practice. They're not worried that he got a good week of practice in or whatever. That's Josh Rosen. It doesn't matter. He knows how to run the offense. He's fine. If they don't get that medical clearance until Christmas Day with the game the day after, Rosen will play if he gets the medical clearance. So they will stretch this out as much as they absolutely can, hoping that he can play because he wants to. If not, obviously it's a completely different ballgame. Then you got Devon Monster coming in. And, Monster was respectable when he played this year. In the Cal game, when he came in the second half, he was 14 of 18 for 191 yards. That's nice. No touchdowns, no turnovers. He only threw 45 passes all season in taking up for Rosen when Rosen was hurt. I think he threw for just under 400 yards total for the entire season. He is going to be competing for the starting job next year with, under Chip Kelly, because Monster does sprint out. He does hit the edge as well. He's got a good arm, intermediate arm, and he's got a decent arm downfield. DTR, as we're going to call him, is going to be competing for the starting job as a true freshman as well. And so Monster, if he plays, can actually make an impact on Chip Kelly, on Tuesday in the game if he gets a chance to play.
Anytime two of the Power Fives get together, it's good enough for me to watch football. Anytime anybody's playing football is good enough for me, but especially the Power Fives, Big 12,
I watch them all.
Pac-12. Exactly. Even though they combine for a 13-11 record, doesn't matter. UCLA, Kansas State, I will be there for the Cactus Bowl. Tony Siracusa joining us from Last Word on College Football to break down UCLA recruiting and get us set for the game against Kansas State. Tony, we appreciate you stopping by. Always gain some insight into your analysis and appreciate the conversation.
Always glad to do it, Mark.